Manner of death at this time looks to be asphyxiation. It did appear from the scene that there was some sexual abuse.
This is so hurtful because if anybody deserved to be that, it should be me.
Kamarie Holland's mommy, and she wouldn't want nothing in the world but to donate her toys to another little child that was in need because she was a very healthy child. I'm a mommy, and I did not have nothing to do with this. She was my life. I lived for her daily. She was my only girl. I had 3 boys and her.
And he a monster and she a monster. Psychopath, both of them. Nothing I have nice to say about them because what they did is unthinkable.
5:53 p.m., August 13th, 2026. A curtain rises inside a small room in Atmore, Alabama. On the table is a man named Jeremy Williams. He is not fighting. He is not appealing. He is not asking for more time. In a few minutes, these will be his last words. I want to thank God for forgiving me for my sins so I can meet him in peace. Most people on death row spend 20 years, 30 years, doing everything they can to avoid this exact moment. Jeremy Williams asked for it. He asked for it early. Somewhere in Alabama tonight, there's a man who isn't allowed to be in that room, even though, of everyone alive, he has the most right to be there. Kamarie's father. To understand why any of this is true, we have to go back, almost 5 years, to a 5-year-old girl named Kamarie Holland. Kamarie Holland was born in November of 2016 in Columbus, Georgia. She was 5 years old in December of 2021, the last December of her life. People who knew her describe a kid who talked constantly, who wanted to be at the center of whatever was happening. Her father, Corey, took her to community events, to rallies, to the kind of things where a 5-year-old ends up front and center in every photo. Because she put herself there. That matters. Not because it makes her death sadder. Nothing needs to make this sadder, but because it means Kamarie wasn't a quiet kid who slipped away unnoticed. People were used to seeing her, used to hearing her, which is part of why what happened next didn't stay hidden for long. Kamarie's mother was Christy Sipple, sometimes going by Christy Hoskins. In December of 2021, she was 35. To the people watching from the outside, she looked like a mother in crisis, doing her best. 2 days after Kamarie's body was found, Sipple appeared on local news, donating her daughter's toys. I'm coping. I'm making it, she said. I am a mommy, and I didn't have nothing to do with this.
I'm Kamarie Holland's mommy, and she wouldn't want nothing in the world but to donate her toys to another little child that was in need because she was a very healthy child.
Oh, she looked like such a sweet little girl.
She was a very sweet child. She was beautiful. Sweet soul.
So sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And this is, I seen this and I touched my heart, so I stopped. That's what she was, mommy. Let's help that mommy. She's like that. She's like that.
We're going to come back to that moment. Hold on to it, because almost nothing about it will look the same by the end of this story. What we can say plainly right now is this. Sipple had a relationship with a man named Jeremy Williams, and on the night of December 12th, that relationship is where this story actually begins. Here's what the record shows, timestamp by timestamp. Sometime on the night of December 12th, Christy Sipple and Jeremy Williams are in contact. Phone records will later confirm it. According to the case against her, Sipple agreed to let Williams harm her daughter in exchange for money. The figure investigators would later use in court, $2,500, negotiated down from there. He never paid her at all. Sit with that for a second, because it matters.
Back, we've been talking about the Kamarie Holland case and the plan tonight to execute the man who raped and killed her. What about Kamarie's mother, Christy Sipple? She pleaded guilty to human sex trafficking after agreeing to sell the child to Jeremy Williams to perform oral sex on him.
This wasn't a stranger who broke into a home in the middle of the night. This was arranged. Williams took Kamarie from the home that night. He drove her across the state line from Columbus, Georgia, into Phoenix City, Alabama, to a house he used to live in, abandoned, empty. His, in the sense that he still had a key to a life nobody else was watching anymore. We don't know Jeremy Williams' face yet in this story. Right now, all we know is that he's 37, that he used to live in this house, and that whatever happened next happened somewhere nobody was checking. That's worth noticing. A lot of true crime cases hinge on a stranger who shouldn't have had access. This case hinges on the opposite problem, a man who never should have had access again, but did, because nobody closed that door behind him. Inside that house, over the hours that followed, Kamarie was harmed in ways no child should ever experience, and Williams ultimately took her life. We're not going to describe more than that. Some details don't need repeating to be understood. What we will tell you is this. He recorded part of it on his own phone. That decision is going to matter enormously later in this story, not tonight. Later. Early on December 13th, Christy Sipple called to report her daughter missing. Her account at the time was simple. She woke up and Kamarie was gone. That's a claim, not a fact, just what she said. Hold on to that difference. It's going to matter. What followed was a large search, police, volunteers, family, spreading out across the Chattahoochee Valley, the stretch of Georgia and Alabama that straddles the Chattahoochee River. For most of that day, Kamarie Holland was simply a missing 5-year-old, and an entire community was looking for her. Here's where things stood at this point. A child was missing. Her mother said she didn't know why, and 30 miles away, in an abandoned house, someone already did. That night, investigators found Kamarie's body inside that abandoned house in Phoenix City.
Keeping an eye on Columbus nearly 2 full days after the body of a previously missing 5-year-old was found, authorities returned to the street today where 5-year-old Kamarie Holland was last seen alive. Investigators appeared to be searching a house on Bowman Street in Columbus shortly before 5 o'clock this evening. Several unmarked law enforcement vehicles could be seen at a home on that street. Bowman Street is the area where Kamarie Holland reportedly went missing in the early morning hours of Monday, December 13th. Her body was found later that night at an abandoned house on 15th Avenue in Phoenix City.
We're going to say her name here on purpose because it's easy in a case like this for the story to become about the people who did this to her. Her name was Kamarie Holland. She was 5. Investigators had already been working Williams' phone records. By that same night, they traced him to a motel in Phoenix City. He was arrested there, found with his uncle. One person was now in custody, but the phone in his pocket had more on it than anyone in that room realized yet.
Jeremy Williams was developed as a suspect, and he was arrested that night at the Bamboo Motel in Phoenix City. Investigators found videos in Williams' phone detailing the horror the child faced during the traumatic ordeal.
Now here's where we go back to that clip from earlier. 2 days after her daughter's death, Christy Sipple appeared on local news at a community toy drive, donating Kamarie's toys on camera. "I am a mommy," she said. "I didn't have nothing to do with this." At the time, nobody watching had any reason to doubt her. She wasn't a suspect yet. She was just a grieving mother on the local news, doing what grieving people do, trying to give her daughter's things somewhere to go. Investigators at this point were still building their case, and what they were building would make this clip almost unbearable to watch back. December 28th, 15 days after Kamarie's death, and Christy Sipple was arrested. The warrant investigators had obtained didn't use soft language. It accused her of knowingly arranging for her own child to be harmed in exchange for payment. Remember her claim from that morning, that she woke up and Kamarie was simply gone? That story didn't survive this. Investigators now believe Sipple knew exactly where her daughter had gone and who she'd gone with, because she was the one who'd arranged it.
Yesterday afternoon at around 1 o'clock in Columbus, we were able to arrest Christy Sipple, who is also known as Christy Hoskins. She has been charged with murder during the course of kidnapping, murder during the course of rape, murder during the course of sodomy, and human trafficking. She was sent to the court this morning at 9 o'clock. She saw Judge Gray, and he set no bonds on all of her charges. So she will be held at this time in the Russell County Jail under no bond on those 4 charges.
This is the moment everything about this case changes. It's no longer just the story of a predator who took a child from her home. It's the story of a mother who let him in the door. More than 2 years passed before either of them stood fully accountable in a courtroom. Both cases moved slowly. Evidence, hearings, a gag order from the judge that kept almost everyone quiet in the meantime. In March of 2024, that changed. Both Williams and Seppel pleaded guilty, but not to the same thing, and not with the same outcome. Seppel pleaded guilty to a serious trafficking charge. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the murder charges against her. She agreed to testify against Williams.
On March 13, 2024, Seppel entered a guilty plea to human sex trafficking. Part of that plea deal required Seppel to register as a sex offender, pay up to $10,000 in fines, and testify against Williams in court.
Williams pleaded guilty too, but in Alabama, a guilty plea alone can't put someone on death row. State law requires a jury to hear the case first, even when the defendant has already admitted what he did. So the case went to trial anyway. Over 3 days in April, a Russell County jury heard the evidence. And this is where the recording Williams made on his own phone became central, not as a detail investigators described secondhand, but as evidence the jury reviewed for themselves. We're not going to describe what was on that footage. What we'll tell you is what it did in that courtroom. It removed any question of doubt. There was no ambiguity left for a jury to work through. Just a decision to make. The jury found Williams guilty on all 4 counts of capital murder, along with additional serious charges related to the abuse and to what happened afterward. April 15th, 2024. Judge David Johnson sentenced Jeremy Williams to death 4 times over, once for each capital count. Williams offered no mitigating evidence. He didn't ask the court for mercy. He asked from the very start for exactly this.
Phil, the court hearing lasted less than 20 minutes, but it was enough time for Circuit Court Judge David Johnson to issue a gag order in the high-profile case that's drawing national attention. Williams was wearing a bulletproof vest and was shackled and cuffed as he was brought into the courtroom. He told Judge Johnson he did not want an attorney. However, because it is now a death penalty case, Johnson appointed attorney Chuck Floyd to advise Williams. Floyd immediately asked for the gag order, which Chief Assistant Russell County DA Rick Chancey opposed.
3 months later, in July, Christy Siebel was sentenced to 20 years. A significant fine. Mandatory registration on the state's offender registry. No possibility of early release until those fines were paid. By the middle of 2024, on paper, this case was over. Both of them sentenced. Both of them convicted. If this were most cases, this is where the story would end. It isn't where this one ends. In most capital cases in Alabama, what comes next is appeals. Years of them. Historically, 2 decades or more between a death sentence and an execution, sometimes longer. That's the process almost every death row inmate relies on, because it's the only thing standing between them and the outcome we want to open this episode with. In 2025, Jeremy Williams went back in front of Judge David Johnson, the same judge who sentenced him. And he asked to give up almost all of it. No lengthy appeals. No decades of delay. He wanted his execution to happen as fast as the law allows. It took the judge about 10 minutes of direct questions to determine Williams understood exactly what he was doing. Over and over, Williams confirmed it. That dropping his appeals meant speeding up his own death. He said he understood. He said that's what he wanted. This is the moment from the very beginning of this episode. The man who didn't fight. Now you know why he didn't, but not yet whether that's the whole truth. Williams later wrote a letter to the Alabama Attorney General's office asking for an execution date to be set quickly. So, in his words, Kamarie's family may have some type of closure. Not everyone believes that's the real reason. Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor, who led the original investigation, was blunt about it publicly. He didn't think Williams was thinking about Kamarie at all.
He had left a trail of victims everywhere he went and lived for a long time. I don't believe for 5 seconds that he was concerned about what he did. He was concerned about what was going to happen to him in prison. And he didn't want to look over his shoulder for 30 years, in my opinion.
Here's what makes that hard to settle either way. Both things can be true at once. A person can genuinely want an ending and still be misrepresenting to himself or to everyone else why he wants it. We're not going to tell you which one Jeremy Williams was. Nobody left alive can prove that with certainty. Not the sheriff, not the family, not us. What we can tell you is what happened next, because that part isn't in question at all. The Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals upheld his conviction and sentence in March of 2026. The Alabama Supreme Court authorized the execution that June. Governor Kay Ivey set the date, August 13th, 2026. In his final 24 hours, Jeremy Williams wasn't isolated. Alabama's Department of Corrections logged it plainly. His wife visited, his mother, his father, a stepmother, a brother. One more family member after that. He ate meals brought to him over those final hours, along with snacks from the vending machines. For his final meal, officially, he requested cheese pizza.
A lot of people want to know what the last 24 hours has been like for the inmate, and in this case, Jeremy Williams requested for his last meal a cheese pizza. And he's had visitors, his father, his brother, his stepmother, his wife, his mother, and then it looks like a friend has come by to visit him at home at correctional in the last 24 hours. And so the time is winding down, about 90 minutes from execution time for Jeremy Tremaine Williams here in Atmore. Barbara, back to you.
Governor Ivey was informed of the case one more time before the execution and declined to intervene. There would be no last-minute stay, no clemency, nothing left standing between Williams and the date he had asked for himself, August 13th, 2026, 5:53 p.m., Central Time. The curtain rose. The execution process began. His final words, in full this time: "I want to thank God for forgiving me for my sins, so I can meet him in peace. Good night." Witnesses say he rocked his head, smiled, appeared to speak or sing quietly to himself before going still. He was pronounced dead at 6:16 p.m.
The process started at about 5:53 Central Time, 6:53 Eastern, when a white curtain was pulled back, and it was what you would imagine, a man strapped to a bed in front of us. It was Jeremy Williams. He turned his head to his left, which would have looked right at us through that window, and looked toward our direction for a short gaze before the Alabama Department of Corrections officials then began reading his death warrant. And like you mentioned there with those final words, he did audibly say after the death warrant was read, it's a little bit of a process there, a lengthy reading from the state officials. Jeremy Williams did say, "I want to thank God for forgiving me for my sins so I can meet him in peace. Good night." After that, the microphone is turned off, and so in the process of Williams being administered these drugs, and up first is a anesthetic. It's a 3-drug protocol is how this process works, and Williams began to move his head from left to right. He looked as if maybe he was singing or maybe verbalizing some sort of statement, and he started to smile as this process began. That slowly faded. He closed his eyes, he yawned, his breathing began to look labored, and the process was underway. And after that, 6:10, the curtain was pulled. He was declared dead by the state of Alabama at 6:16 Central Time here in Atmore.
District Attorney Rick Chancey, who prosecuted the case from the beginning, wasn't permitted to witness it. That's standard for prosecutors in Alabama. But afterward, he had something to say about those last words.
Didn't die in peace. She didn't close her eyes and say, "I can meet my maker in peace tonight." That baby was brutally killed. And I'm glad Jeremy died in peace, because that baby didn't.
Alabama's Attorney General released a statement calling it one of the most heartbreaking crimes ever committed against a child in the state's history, and said Kamarie was let down. her whole life, by people who were supposed to protect her. There's one more person in this story who deserves the last word, and it isn't Jeremy Williams. Kamarie's father, Kamarie Holland, wanted to be in that room. He wasn't allowed to be. A separate legal issue, unrelated to Kamarie's death, kept him out. He's spoken about that decision publicly, saying nobody in that room loved his daughter more than he did. In the years since Kamarie died, Kamarie Holland has shown up at her memorial gatherings, at birthday celebrations held in her honor, at events for other children in the community. Front and center, the way people who knew her say Kamarie always was too. Jeremy Williams got the ending he asked for. Kamarie Holland never got the chance to ask for anything at all. If you'd been the judge in that competency hearing, would Williams' answers have been enough to convince you he understood what he was giving up? Let us know what you think below.